Welcome to the very first episode of Strategy Shift podcast. Today, I'm going to talk to you about strategy. Strategy comes from the Greek word strategia, which means to lead the troops, to be the commander general. In the modern world, it boils down to the very simple definition. Strategy is a plan to get something done. You have a challenge, a problem. And then you figure out how to solve that problem, and then you go and do it. Strategy is figuring out how to solve the problem, and then execution is the part of actually doing the solution, implementing the solution. One of the most famous strategy theorists in this world is Richard Rumelt, and he identifies the critical part about building a strategy as diagnosing the right problem. Before you begin figuring out how to do something, and understand whether you are solving the right problem. Identifying that challenge requires exploration, research, asking questions. Most importantly, identifying the causes and the impact that this challenge might have. Because if you have a number of challenges that you want to deal with, you need to understand which one is the one you should focus all your resources or attention on first. And you can only do that by understanding what are the causes and what impact this challenge has. So let me give you an example. If, let's say, you are running a business and one of the challenges that you're experiencing is lack of customers, right? You understand that because based on your books, you see that you're not getting enough revenue, your profit is down, you have some sort of customer counter that you can see how many customers kind of walk. Say you're running a convenience store, right? You can see how many customers come in and how many people buy. So in your mind, the challenge is getting more customers. And if you think about that, like there's many different solutions to that. It could be, okay, maybe the customers are not buying because you're too expensive. Maybe you're missing products. Maybe you're not advertising enough, right? So as you begin to think about this problem, you begin to think about the causes for this challenge. Why don't I have enough customers? And you know what the impact, because the impact directly shows up in revenue. But is it the right challenge, right? Is finding more customers the right challenge? Because sometimes you might have enough customers, right? You might have enough people coming into your store, but maybe they don't buy the stuff at your store because maybe your store is not, appealing to the customers. It's not clean, or everything's disorganized. It's hard to find things. Maybe it's missing the crucial products that customers in your area want. So all of a sudden, this one challenge that you were thinking about becomes a source for you to understand what is the real problem, right? And you can only do that by asking customers why they aren't buying, observing, maybe, doing some customer interviews. So all of a sudden, your challenge of getting more customers becomes a different challenge. And now you need to address that maybe first. So maybe customers aren't buying because you're not carrying the right product, right? So if you solve that problem, you'll still have the same number of people coming in, but buying now stuff that they want. Maybe the customers want something that you don't have. Or the issue would be maybe your store doesn't look appealing. It might be that it's run down. You don't have the time, the resources to keep it up, and it just doesn't appeal to customers to walk into the store. There's a story that Rory Sutherland talks about in a 5-star or 3-star Michelin restaurant. Who provides the most value? The cook who cooks these amazing meals, or the person who cleans the restaurant and keeps it nice, tidy, and presentable looking, right? And turns out it almost an equal value, because if the restaurant is not clean, there's rats running around and there's garbage all over the place. It doesn't matter if you have the best cook in town, the people won't come in. Same thing for the store, the convenience store. If the outside of the store does not look appealing enough for the customers to come in, maybe they don't even know it's a convenience store, then customers won't come in. So all of a sudden, the challenge that you need to solve is to make your store more appealing. The process of diagnosing what is the real problem you need to solve and which problem you need to solve first is the crux of the strategy process, right? Identify the right problem, and then you will be halfway there. As you know, the implementation of that kind of continues as the next step. The next step would be to identify the constraints that you face that you challenge faces that bound you from solving the challenge. So if you're sticking with the example of the convenience store, if you identify that your main challenge is that your store, it does not have an appealing storefront, right? Maybe people don't know about it. It's in a corner. Maybe there's a plaza. It's in a corner behind, some other stores. Most people don't even know that you exist. So the constraint is to solving that challenge is to somehow get people to know about your store, right? So you need to identify certain limits. You can't. Maybe the constraint is you can't put a sign up because all the possible signs for that in a plaza for your store have been taken by the bigger places. So you can't put another sign there. Maybe constraint is they don't have enough money to maybe make your store build more appealing. There's many different kind of things you can go through to identify these constraints. So, but it's important to identify them, because if you identify that if it's in the plaza and the room on the billboard or whatever the store advertising board for your store, there's no room for the store, then you need to figure out a different way how to advertise to customers to be like, hey, there's a convenience store here, come and check it out, right? If you don't have money, or you don't have enough money to maybe put a billboard up or do some sort of marketing campaign, then you need to come up with a different way to let people know in the neighborhood that you exist. Maybe you need to go door to door and print out a little flyer, and a convenience store, come here, right? So these constraints kind of they bound you, but also allow you to find innovative solutions to your problem, right? So once you've identified the constraint, the next step is to figure out the approach. How are you going to solve this challenge within the constraints, the bounds, right? So if your constraint is money, you only have $200 to spend, for example, then your approach would be to take those $200, maybe spend $50 on printing out flyers, maybe pay $50 for a part-time employee, or anybody, a teenager to walk around and put the flyers into people's mailboxes. Or maybe you go yourself and you meet the neighborhood, right? Or maybe you want to hire like a giant monkey person in a monkey suit or something like that to gain attention. Be like, hey, convenience store here, I don't know, water for $1 or something like that, some sort of marketing sale or whatever campaign that you want to put together, right? So that's your approach. You want to, what approach is going to be, I'm going to, blanket the neighborhood with the flyers. And then the next steps would be to design the flyers, print the flyers, hire somebody to go around and distribute the flyers, and then collect some sort of metric, figure out whether it's actually working. So that's your very simple strategy. Identify the right challenge, understand what causes the challenge, what impact it has. So these two things are important. And identify the constraints that's preventing you from solving this challenge, from overcoming it. Then figure out the approach based on those constraints. You have your box now. What can you do within that box? Can you step outside the box, right? And then figure out what the steps. This is the steps to solve the problem. Probably the easiest once you figured out what the approach is. You just, okay, I need to do this, and this. It might be difficult, but it'd be very simple, right? You just kind of list the stuff. And that's a very, very easy, very quick introduction to strategy, what strategy is in reality. It's simple, but very difficult to do because it requires a lot of thinking, research, talking through things, trying things, talking to people, talking to customers, talking to your employees. In the future episodes, I will break down each of these sections for the strategy a little bit more, and we'll begin to have interviews with business owners, small business owners, medium business owners. Maybe we'll get some authors on just to see how they approach, common problems in business and what strategic shift they had come up with to, make their business grow, make their business better, beat competition, and things like that. All right. So thank you very much for listening. This was the very first episode of Strategy Shift, and I will see you next week. Thank you.